Hello, welcome to the No Rest for the Vivid podcast. My name is Claire Hill. I'm a self-belief coach. I'm also going to stick in business there because I also am a business coach. I've just decided, well, no, I'm not just decided. I am a business coach, but I keep forgetting to tell people that I am. And I am the founder of the No Rest for the Vivid Club. Today, before I introduce Jade, actually, please go and check that you follow and subscribe to the podcast. It makes such a difference to the growth of the podcast, which means I get even better guests like Jade. Hi, Jade.
Hello.
Welcome. Would you like
Thank
to
you.
introduce yourself to everybody?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Claire. It's a
Welcome.
privilege to be on your podcast with you. I've really been looking forward to chatting with you today. So my name is Jade Elana, and I am the founder of the Soul Salon. And we support women in, I'd like to say, a multi-dimensional ways to really help them to unlock their true self, who they really are. And using my Soul Keys method, we help them to then create a life or business from soul. So it's all
Oh,
about showing up as the woman you were meant to be rather than what's expected of you.
oh, that's magic in it because isn't it how that's what we all want? That's
Mhm.
all want. But I suppose one of the things is discovering who
Yeah,
that person is.
yeah,
Um, I love the fact that we know each other through lots of mutual people.
we
We
do.
literally live 5 minutes away from each
Yeah,
other because you live like right next door to one of my best mates.
I know.
Um, and then we've never had a input conversation.
I
We
know.
do that.
I feel like it was divinely orchestrated that we connected online and then that kind of unfolded, just
Yeah.
to validate that connection online, it unfolded and yeah, it's never by coincidence, right?
No, it's so funny because obviously I've known you as long as Bex has known you because Bex was like, oh, there's this amazing woman. She lives next door. Her name's Jay. She does all this stuff. Like you're gonna love what she does. And then, she'd obviously show me everything. And there is something about you. And I think like your magnetism reaches across the online space. It's not
Thank you.
obviously just in person, which is also just shows how magnetic you are in that way. How did it all begin? What's the love story of the business?
So I'll take you back to the real pivotal moment for me that really pushed me forward to honor my soul's calling. And I think, we all have that. And I think as women, especially, this is something that we suppress and we're led to suppress because of society, our conditioning, our upbringings, and so on. So I'm a mum to three beautifully chaotic, messy kiddos. And I became a mum for the first time around 25, actually. It was quite young. I'd always thought I'd be more in my 30s. So it was a wonderful surprise. And as motherhood is one of those journeys that I believe it unravels you just as much as you evolve. It takes away some of the things that you're not, some of the things you thought you were. And we can often feel lost and disconnected within that. But we kind of find ourselves going through the motions, right? And at this point, I was a hairdresser. I had a really successful hairdressing business. I mean, I was totally burnt out and overworking, trying to do all the things as we do. And yeah, I think as I say, I was going through the motions. And I then had my my first son, 2 years and 10 days after my daughter. So super close. So I was very much in the midst of the chaos, right? Um, and I'd been on my spiritual journey and on a journey of really connecting to myself since my 20s because I was in quite a volatile relationship back then and stepped away from that. So I'd been on a journey of kind of self discovery, but there was so many layers that I wasn't tapping into yet. And there was so much of myself that I was keeping quite hidden as I was focusing on all of the motherhood and all the things, trying to, make money, be the mum, do all the things. And when it came to falling pregnant with my third son, sorry, getting all my numbers mixed up, my last child, my third child. Sorry, guys, you'll be like, which one am I? When I fell pregnant with him, as you do, right, you go into it. Well, I went into it for the third time with an expectation. I knew what I was doing this time, or so I thought. And I had a really great pregnancy, and I was still working lots and doing all the things. And he was born in 2019. And from the moment he was born, everything changed for me. So he was born and diagnosed at 4 weeks old with a really rare disease, hirschsprung's disease it's called. And at the time when they said they mentioned this disease that they thought he had, I had no idea what this was. And very quickly after, we realised the severity of this particular disease, how rare it was, and how they couldn't really give us any kind of outcome on what was going to happen. So, as you can imagine, as a mum of two already, I had all these hair businesses and wedding hair businesses. Everything just had to stop. I really had to accept where I was and where I found myself and begin to try and find my balance for us all. So we ended up spending the good first year of his life in hospital. He was operated on at around 4 months old. And that was the toughest time in my life. The fear of handing him over to surgeons, not knowing how or if he would return, was the depths of darkness for me. But I think in that moment, it was the ultimate surrender. It was the ultimate release of the outcome and the ultimate grounding in faith. So we navigated his journey. We spent a lot of time in hospital, finding my balance amongst, being a mum to 3 children, but needing all of my attention, or most of my attention, to be directed there. And as I say, spending all that time in hospital, I really learned what it meant to be at home within your own mind, within your own body, within your own soul. And what it meant to really find our balance in acceptance, in surrender, and really moving forward with that knowing that there was always going to be things that we can't control, and all that we can control is ourselves. And so that became a really huge lesson, and actually is part of some of the Finding Your Balance masterclass and things I teach now. But I think coming out the other side of that, letting go of all the businesses, letting go of all the shoulds, letting go of the expectation, and moving forward in his journey in his first few years, he's growing into a strong, healthy boy. There's so much complication, but we've really learned how to navigate from that space of releasing expectation. And I think that was huge for me. But even more than that was this feeling of, we fear so much as women, right? We fear so much. We fear not being liked. We fear not being good enough. And we're led to this space. And I believe it's a cycle of pressure that we find ourselves on that begins with expectation. And I think experiencing fear on that level for me made me it was a spiritual awakening. It was an awakening of, what am I doing? Why aren't I following what I know I'm meant to be doing? Even if it didn't really make full sense, I knew that at that point that I'd been suppressing that part of me. So I accepted where I was, and we moved through, the first 3 years of his life, and really, really paid all of my attention into where my heart needed to be at that point in my life. So releasing all of the businesses, releasing any idea of working. We then rolled straight into COVID. And that level of stillness meant that my soul's voice, my inner voice, just got louder and louder and louder. And I couldn't ignore it anymore. I couldn't suppress it anymore. It was time. So I did what we would all naturally do. I looked outside of myself. I looked at courses. I looked at ways that I could educate myself in something that felt more aligned than what I've been doing. And I ended up doing a self-image and NLP, like life coaching course and all the things. And I got to the end of that and realized it wasn't it. I knew there was more. And I think at this point, I'd tapped into my internal compass so much that I just followed it. And I've continued to follow it from that point. And that leads me here, right here, to this being sat here with you, you know. So I ended up investing in a mentor not long after I'd completed the course. And actually, another story of me traveling all the way to London to attend this particular wonderful women's event. And she also lived round the corner from me, it turned out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a synchronicity again, you know, of connection, of who you're meant to end up being around or working with and all the things. So I put myself in this room in London, and this particular event was for established business women. And at this point, I was basically on paper a stay-at-home mom with an idea, you know. And it was scary, but I knew that I was meant to be in the room. It was like I couldn't shake this feeling. And so I went, and I ended up then working one-to-one with her, investing in myself in a way that I had never done, you know, with regards to the exchange. And, you know, it was petrifying. But I just knew that I was meant to be there. I was meant to be in that room. I was meant to be doing those things above all reason, above all logical reason. And that has been exactly how I've continued to lead my life and my business since that point. Yeah.
Wow. So long did you work with her for?
So I worked with her for 9 months, and she really helped me to. I knew, you know, I'd built businesses before, but it was very much on a whim, not with any real structure, you know, as most of us do as women. And I think I knew that I needed help with laying a good foundation. I knew I was serious about this. This call was so loud. I felt like I needed to ask for help, and that's another thing I think that we struggle with. But I knew I needed it, and I was okay with that. So she really helped me to really figure out what my mission and vision was at that point. And as you know, it evolves just as you do, and your purpose evolves just as you do, because I actually believe that you are your purpose. But having that strong foundation and really diving deep into what my mission was, my why, you know, it has helped me to continue to go, make decisions, navigate. It's become part of that internal compass that I now lead with. So I worked with her for 9 months. And then shortly after that, I ended up working with a spiritual teacher, because I knew that there was some parts of me that I needed to heal, some layers of myself from my 20s, from my past, that I was suppressing, that was keeping me shaky in my life, in my business, in my visibility. And so I worked with this wonderful woman in a group container, which again was another level of fear, putting myself in a space with women that I had the utmost respect for. Going from feeling like you weren't meant to be in the room to knowing you belong. And sisterhood has a massive, massive, you know, place in everything that I do. But that really helped me to almost steady that foundation even stronger. And I think, again, that's something that we miss as women and as business owners especially. Sometimes we can be so focused on moving forward that we suppress the parts of us that we need to almost accept and bring with us on the journey. And that made a huge difference for me in the way that I show up and the way that I lead as well.
I think it's quite an interesting point that I don't think is discussed enough, is about when you move forward, bringing that with you.
Yeah.
It's such an uncomfortable thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, God, yes. And I think, you know, I think a lot actually, as I've gone on my journey and, you know, with building a business from purpose and soul and all of the things. And as you know, there's so much noise, isn't there? There's so much noise, and there is, you know, you find yourself on another level of expectation, on another cycle of pressure, on another cycle of overwhelm. I describe it like getting on this treadmill, this pressure treadmill, and you're like running towards these expectations that you're never going to reach, and actually they're not even yours half the time, most of the time. And I think that's no different. And I think until we really step off that and ground in who we are and accept every version of us that was, that is, and that is yet to be, that's really when we can start to push forward and allow ourselves to be seen and be visible, you know?
So how, when women, like, and I'm guessing the people you work with find you in so many different ways. Like I say, you know, you're quite a magnetic individual. So they're drawn to you. Where do you see your superpowers fitting into their life and bringing them to where they want to be?
I think for me, I think the way I describe my gift and my knowing, you know, that I've got so many tools in my basket, but above all else, it's my intuition, my knowing, and the fact that I have an ability to help people connect the dots to things that they haven't been able to see. And I think that's really powerful because often we don't offer ourselves a new perspective, and that in itself is an awakening. You know, every time you offer yourself a new perspective or you look at something differently, a situation, yourself, other people, that creates expansion and offers a chance to raise your vibration, and that is ultimately how we evolve and grow as human beings in this lifetime, right?
Mm,
So it's about connecting the dots, the communication, and unlocking who you really are. Because, like we say, you know, as we grow up, we go through things, we experience things, trauma, our childhoods, our schooling, societal expectations, all things, and we're all traumatized. You know, we all are. It's impossible not to be. We suppress those parts of us. You know, we push them to one side, and we're all born whole. We're all born full in the fullness of who we are, and it's over time that we start to suppress that or hide those parts of ourselves. And I think my gift and ability is bringing all of those pieces back together, from and through the lens of love. And
mm.
ultimately, that's what I'm here to teach.
So you work with women from all walks of life, and they
Yeah.
don't have to have necessarily have a business or anything like that.
No, so what I found and love, I like to work long periods of time one to one with women because, you know, I believe that's where we see long term consistent change, life changing change, you know. Um, and so I offer a long term one to one journey, and we move through each key in unlocking another door of possibility, another layer. And it's very much a dance between healing and evolving. Um, but what I love is that when we learn to reconnect to who we really are, our inner self, our inner child, our deepest desires, what we truly want, when we tap into that internal compass of our values and our beliefs, you know, our own personal creativity, um, and our intuition, you know, we can then start to lead and create from that point. And what I love is how we begin to unravel their souls knowing of what they're meant to be doing or what they really want to create. And with the women who come to me who aren't in a business or even had any idea of wanting a business at the beginning of that
Mm,
journey, a business is born halfway through. And that I find really beautiful, really beautiful. Yeah.
mm,
So there's many different ways. I mean, the Soul Salon is just the most beautiful community. It really is a sanctuary for your soul. And the more I've lent into that, the more I've realised how important that space is and the community aspect of all that I do. So we also offer retreats and in-person events and masterclasses, again, because I believe in that in-person connection. And I think connection, communication, and community are three very important values
mm.
for
I
me.
love that. And you said about finding the balance.
Mm,
How, like with it, like having the balance between who you want to become or who you think you want to become before
mm,
knowing who that is,
yes.
having an inkling, understanding what to let go of, what to bring with you without
Mm,
feeling too overwhelmed, but with that guidance. How do people find a balance? How do they move forward and have the space to do that whilst doing everything else that is expected of them in that moment. Because I can imagine that those, and I know with some of the clients that I work with, we know that you've got to put some legwork in at the beginning, haven't you? You've got to carve that space out and
Mm.
understand that you deserve the priority of doing that.
Yeah.
But it's then finding the balance in those first steps forward
Yeah.
of prioritizing yourself. But I'm guessing, like if you've got, you get the guilt as well, don't you? Because I mean, I'm through that stage. And, again, like I said, some of my clients, you've got to sort of work with them with that guilt of saying, no, actually, working on yourself brings so much more to the people you love. But
Yeah.
it's finding the balance is a tricky one, isn't it?
I think we as women have been taught balance wrong.
Right.
If you think of, let's think of the typical image of balance is the scale, right? And it's like this idea that we're meant to separate our life or ourselves into two halves and then find this perfect, even symmetry between all of the things.
Mm,
That's impossible. That is actually impossible. And it's the pursuit of perfection that's never going to happen. So we find ourselves on this cycle of pressure that I believe begins with the expectations. Then it leads us to pressure, overwhelm, burnout, the shoulds, guilt, shame, fear, judgment, comparison. And it's just this continuous cycle. And what I think the biggest thing in finding our balance truly is understanding that we are it. So the balance is found within us first and foremost. We are what keeps everything steady and in place. But the only way that we can really start to begin to find our balance is to ground in who we are and what matters most to us.
mm,
So I believe women can have it all. Of course we can, but it's got to be your all and
yeah.
not the all of society or the all of the lady next door, because her life and your life are completely different. And so when we ground in that into the internal compass that we all have the power of tapping into at any point, that creates that strong foundation. And then I believe that it isn't about finding perfect, even symmetry, but more so accepting that life is meant to flow. And I describe this like a Ferris wheel. One day or 1 hour in one day for us as women, it's going to be motherhood that's the priority. And then it's going to tick over and it's going to be your business. And then it's going to go back again. It's going to be your relationship with your partner and so on. And that's how it's meant to be. It's not going to be this, perfect even symmetry. And when we can accept that and we fill our Ferris wheel with all the things that matter most to us and us only, we find a way, to move
Mm,
through those things with acceptance, with love, with compassion for ourselves. Not every day is going to be the same. Not every day as a business owner and a mum is going to look the same. It's just not. Our time is different. Our responsibilities are different. But when we ground in who we are and what we truly, truly value and believe in and not what's expected of us, that's really when we're going to find our balance.
mm,
If you think when we're born, we aren't born with an expectation of walking, talking. We aren't born with an expectation of what life's going to look like. Most of us start our day with an expectation. And the way I like to teach people to find their balance is to focus on your intention.
mm.
Even as a word, it's much more gentle. It allows more space. It allows life to happen,
Yeah, yeah. I love that you said about you can have it all, but that's just sort of like your all.
It's got to be
And
your.
yeah, and I saw some post, I think it was in Vogue, about somebody who's just had a baby, and it was like 2 or 3 weeks after that baby. I don't even know who it is, and she's out in a really like lovely dress. There's no, doesn't look like she's had a baby. She's just, sucked straight back in. And there's all this judgment because Vogue said, look, you can really have it all, showing that you can have it all.
As
Now,
if that's all.
yeah. Now, Vogue, Vogue, I think, has been shot to shit for that statement. Can you know what I mean? Can you believe it? But I think the what I saw was that one, all you're doing is you're shaming somebody who potentially genetically her body has just snapped back to what it was.
Exactly.
You don't know. You're judging again a woman just because somebody's put on there, you can have it all. You don't know whether that was an event was pivotal to her career, she was getting paid a lot of money for it, or it was for a cause that she was really, really important to her that was
Yeah.
booked before she fell pregnant. You don't know that these things again. There's all this unknowing, and maybe that she does feel like she's got it all, but she's worked really damn hard to get there. So
Yeah.
there's all of these things. And also, again, my definition of having it all is not turning up at an event 2 weeks after having a baby in a really, sparkly dress. That's not me. And that's okay. And I didn't judge that situation. There was so much chat about it because of these expectations of what having it all looks like. But it's about regaining your power and saying, no, my having it all is being able to wear leggings to work and feel like gym leggings. I had this conversation like, what leggings are all right to wear? If as long as they're not holy and you can see your knickers through them, they're fine. Like you can wear to when you're running your own business. But like, I feel great in leggings. I'm going to still wear them. I don't give a shit what people say. But that kind of like, that's my all. My all was having, yeah, like having an office painted exactly how I want it, controlling my day in whatever way I want, picking my son up, running the business that I want, doing whatever I want. I literally do whatever I want. I have it all and I want more. And that's
Yeah.
okay because the
Yeah.
more I get, the more I give. But I think it's just knowing yourself. And this goes on to my next question about grounding in who you are. I know I have that power to do that because I know who I am. And there are so many women that we work with who might listen to this podcast right now, just on the first journey of discovering, like
Mhm.
really knowing who they are, how to decide, having those giving themselves those opportunities to be really decisive in what they want, allowing space to hear their intuition and moving forward with that and feeling like trusting
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's not an it takes a while, doesn't it? Where someone's listening to this, like, I want to ground in who I am, who am I? Where would you suggest they start?
I would ask them, who are you right now? And what matters most to you right now?
Hmm.
Because again, and I think this puts a lot of women off, is that we believe we're going to get to this place where we know who we are and we're going to stay that. And that's not it.
No.
We're meant to evolve, we're meant to expand, we're meant to grow. This is the whole point of our souls being in this human existence, walking the path that is unique to ourselves, is that we're meant to learn, we're meant to expand, we're meant to evolve. So what I would say to the women that are at this point where they're feeling lost and they're disconnected from who they are is that is their signal. That is the direction to start to walk towards you, to look within at yourself. Who are you right now? What do you want right now? Your deepest desires, tapping into the feminine. It's not about the doing right now. It's not always about the taking action right away. The masculine energy can support the feminine when we know who we are and what we want and what really matters to us right now in the present moment. We accept ourselves
Yeah.
for where we are and where we're at. That's going to ground us and help us to find our balance. Then we can start taking that aligned and intentional action based on what we want or who we would like to become. So, it's never about looking so far forward to this outcome, this final destination. That's not it. And I think that's what stops a lot of women from beginning that journey of self-discovery, is feeling like they've got this really long road ahead, but we all do.
Mm.
And that's the point, that is the whole point of it. The path to purpose, the path that leads you home towards you, is one stepping stone at a time. There isn't any rush. So it's really about releasing any outcome, releasing any expectation on where you think you should be or who you think you should be, and asking yourself, who am I right now? What matters most to me right now in this moment, and what do I want? How do I want to feel moving forward? What do I want to create for myself and my life? And then take that one next step in that direction.
It's like reverse engineering, isn't it? It's sort of feeling. So I know I've worked with some of my clients and I say, you know, how do you want to feel? And they just say, I just want to feel happy, or they just want things to feel easy and less overwhelming. It's okay. So what makes you feel happy? And some clients that I've worked with, they don't even know that. And that's where you have to really, it's that where one-to-one work really stepped into its own, isn't it? And I'm sure you've been done, you know, I know you do your in-person events where people come along and they're saying that they're lost in it, and you just want to go, okay, let's go off for a day, and I want to find it, and I want to find it in your brain. But obviously that's not always possible. It's always like coming back. And also that idea you just said about the journey, I really believe that is, you got to fall in love with the process of doing it,
Yeah.
not the gut, not the destination.
No, because in the end, that's not it, you know.
Mm,
And this is what I think we're taught, and this is where a lot of pressure comes in, is that we're taught so much to focus on this milestone or this expectation or this outcome, and sometimes they are our own, and we get there and we realize that that doesn't bring the feeling that we actually wanted.
mm,
And I think one of the things I want every woman and everyone, you know, man and woman, to know is that it is always a feeling that we actually desire. And when we can learn to almost unravel what it is we really want, it's attached to a feeling. And we have the power to bring that feeling into our reality on the
mm,
stepping stone that you stand. And even if you're the woman that's just stepping into this self-discovery journey, or spirituality, or all things, business, wherever you're at, you know, you can bring that into your reality now. It's asking yourself, how?
mm.
I accept where I'm at. I accept what I'm working with. I accept my circumstances. So how can I bring in that feeling? You know, if you're craving more money, it's freedom, right? Ultimately, what makes me feel free? Well, actually, it's walking by the beach. You can do that now,
Yeah.
you know? And when we learn to do that, and when we learn to accept where we are, release the expectation, and start to really focus on our intention and how we want to live day to day, it changes everything. And it ultimately raises our vibration, opens our heart to how we're already abundant and how everything's already possible, and that becomes a magnet for miracles.
Oh, magnet for miracles. I love that. Um, and I'm sure you've been in a situation with this podcast, I want to share more stories of when people have been feeling so doubtful, so fearful. Imposter syndrome might be crippling them, but they've held their nerve, they've trusted the process, and they've got through to the other side. And I want to share more stories of that, because when I
Yeah.
have moments of that, I feel comforted when I find a story, or even sometimes when I think back to my own. I mean, I write every day. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, yeah, I felt like that in
Mm.
September. I'm going to go and read what I wrote about. Have you felt like that? Have you been in those situations?
Of course. Of course. I mean, you know, that's the point of our mind, right? It's gonna, you know, play these tricks on us and try to hold us back, and, you know, try to let fear lead. And that is its job after all, to keep us safe. But, you know, of course I felt that. And many times I think, you know, when you create a business or build something with such purpose and passion, and it matters, you know, you're doing it because it matters. You have a strong mission, a strong vision, a strong why, even for your life. You know, I think that for women especially, that idea of failure or of judgment or of shame, you know, that's always going to be there. That cycle of pressure that we've spoken about is always going to be there. And I think it's about learning how to accept that and almost invite it as if it's your friend to join you, especially fear, especially, you know, those moments where we find ourselves caught up in our own mind. You know, through self-awareness and self-witnessing, we can manage that. But it's like we have to accept that it's going to be part of the process, as you say, part of the journey. But yeah, many times, I mean, just recently, you would have seen that I launched a brand new in-person event to my retreat. And I launched it in March for a May Day. And I felt this inner knowing. And as I say, I really lead with that. I lead with the feminine energy. I follow where I feel called, even at the risk of it not going how I think it should, or, how the expected outcome. And that brought up a whole nother level of fear. Am I going to be able to hold space for a whole entire weekend and all of the things? And I think just grounding back down into my mission, grounding back into my why. Why am I creating this? What's my intention? Letting the expectation go, focusing on the intention. It's like, no, come on, let's just, this is an offering. We're inviting people the opportunity. We're just going to have to see what happens, release the outcome. And actually, after a while, I had one woman sign up instantly, and I was obviously elated, like, cried my eyes out. Then after that, I was really, showing up, pushing, beautiful. I knew my intention was right. The actual weekend is planned. It's beautiful. It's, everything has been really thought out intentionally to support these women in reconnecting to themselves. And just it was like nothing, no one was coming on. And I was thinking, as your mind would do, you start to procrastinate. Oh, maybe I've made a mistake. Maybe actually I'm not right for this. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I've gone in the wrong direction. And the cycle of pressure comes. And I caught myself. And I said, hang on a minute. Let's come back. Let's look at all of the things. Let's revisit my intention. No, that's right. Let's revisit the transformation. I know how these women are going to feel when they leave. No, that's right. Let's look at all of the, the usual business aspects. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the messaging. Let's look at the feedback. And so many women had said to me, this date just doesn't align. And at that point, I could have gone, this isn't working. I could have let that fear, I could have let that procrastination, that doubt take over. But because I grounded back into my intention, back into my values, back into my why, I realised that maybe it was just the date. So I moved it, and unbeknownst to me, I'd already scheduled a September date in with the venue and completely forgot.
Oh.
So I moved, everything moved like breezy, which was amazing. All of the people who were coming to hold the yoga, the sound baths, the food, everything just moved. And 6 women are already signed up.
Oh, wow.
And so I hope that finds everybody when they need it, because if we can really surrender, even when our mind is telling us, this is scary, you're not good enough, don't do it, we're going to fail, if we can learn to quiet that noise and really tap into that internal compass, it will never steer you wrong. And even if you don't understand why something didn't work out or why something didn't go as you expected in that moment, you will eventually,
Yeah.
So 100%, and that's just one example. There have been thousands.
But isn't it just when you're trying something new and it's like letting go of, like, oh, I love the fact that you held your nerve through that and then it's all worked out perfectly. And I just love that. That is a perfect example of sharing these kinds of stories, because when you are attached to that intention and the mission and what you want to achieve with it, and you know that it's right, but it doesn't fit for everybody in the date thing, it's such some people, and again, going back, if they don't know who they are, they haven't got themselves to anchor that self-belief to, you're going to think, oh, no one wants to come. It means it's absolute crap, can't be bothered. Oh my God, I'm a failure. When all it was the date. It's just, that's brilliant.
And I think that's the beauty in self-awareness, self-discovery, of really, having a relationship with yourself, learning how to manage your mind and manage your ego, because, that it's always going to be there. It has its job, but when we can learn to use that to fuel, the fire, to help lead us in the right direction, it will actually amplify it. And so someone said to me once, when it comes to fear, invite it to sit at the table with you, pull up a chair. And that has just helped me so much, that one sentence, because if you're scared, really, truly, if you're scared, it means it's important to you. And that's beautiful.
Love that. So out of interest, how many spaces have you got left?
So we have got, there can either be 2 ladies join on their own or 2 sets of 2. So 2 friends that want to come together and share a beautiful room. All the rooms are incredible.
Where are you having it?
So it is at Denmark House in Bluebell Hill. So it's
Oh, I
not
know,
far.
yeah.
It's not far. It's a stunning venue and actually so divine. I mean, I literally decided that I was going to build out retreats, and it felt like this venue dropped out the sky and landed on my lap. And I've connected so beautifully with the people who own the property and the story and their mission behind their home. It's all about, it was their nan and bringing family and connection and community within what they're doing with this space now. So it's just the most beautiful space. We're surrounded by beautiful horses, got a lovely walk. And it's really about helping women to, as we say, carve out that time, that intentional time to connect with themselves and with other like-minded women, to be vulnerable, to share, but to also uplift and inspire. And we're going to journey through lots of different teachings and soulful activities to really help bring and cultivate inner peace. Yeah.
Wow.
Exciting.
I love that. So I ask everyone that comes on the podcast the same question. What do you know now that you wish you knew 10 years ago?
I think it's the same sentence I think I could repeat over and over again. And that is that absolutely everything you desire, everything you are searching for, will only be found within you. And when we go there first, that's then when we start to attract outside of ourselves all that we want externally too. As within, so without.
I love it. Thank you, babe. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm at _Jade Elana. You can find our free Facebook community on Facebook, obviously. That's the Soul Salon. We do some really wonderful lives in there and some intuitive card readings as well. And you can also find me at www.jadeelana.com.
Amazing. Thank you, darling.
Thank
It's been
you.
so lovely to have you.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank
like I'll share all the links, and if anyone wants to come to the retreat, then they've got time, haven't they? Maybe
Yes,
get a
you
few.
have.
Yeah.
The last spaces.
Amazing. Thank you, babe. Take care.
Thank you, Claire.